About that, Ryan Walters.
As always, the parents are right. They're spot on. The teachers' unions are destroying our schools. They're destroying this country. They are taking everything that should be what education is about understanding academics, about high expectations, and they've turned it on its head. The way you get A's in a classroom now in a teachers' union-run school is by being woke instead of these core concepts. And the parents are tired of it. They're sick of it. They want good teachers in the classroom, not teachers' unions, woke nonsense. This has to end. And again, the country's education system depends on our schools getting the teachers' unions out and putting the parents back in control of their kids' education.
Yeah. Ryan Walters, Sonia Schaub, thank you both.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unleashed. I'm Scarlett Johnson, and this is presented by Moms for Liberty. Today, I am joined by someone who has been on the front lines in the war for our children and for sanity in education. Not with hashtags, not just a keyboard warrior, but someone who has real courage and has taken on the system and won. So thank you so much for being here, Ryan. You are the former Oklahoma state superintendent, and now you're the CEO of the Teacher Freedom Alliance, a brand new national effort launched with the Freedom Foundation to basically provide alternatives to teachers so they don't have to be a part of Randi Weingarten's failure machine, her mechanisms through unions. And so this is something that is desperately needed in a time such as this. Every day the news has more and more headlines about how education has failed American children, both in K through 12 schools and in college. So thank you so much for being here, Ryan.
Charlotte, thank you for having me on. I'm a big fan of yours, big fan of the show, so I really appreciate it. And yeah, I know, the Moms for Liberty and you all have been fighting this fight for a while now, been leading the charge. And so, our efforts are to try to give parents what they want in our schools, which are good teachers that aren't subservient to the teachers union, controlled by the teachers union. So that's why we felt so strongly about this effort.
Yeah, today it seems like the only way to get an A is to be woker than anyone else. Let's just look at a few headlines. I've just went through your X feed, and I know some of that's on our X feed, but you were with Trace Gallagher on Fox News discussing this story, the college kids who can't do basic math. Tell us more about what is happening in California. I know it's happening everywhere.
Right. So what we saw in California is some studies were released and they did a deep dive into colleges saying, hey, what exactly is going on with these college math classes? Because you continue to move kids into these remedial math classes in college. And so the colleges came out and said, well, the kids can't do basic math at any level. And so over 50% of them can't do that. So we're having to send them to these extra classes to do that. So then you take a step back and go, if college age kids can't do basic math, what were they doing in K-12? And so then you start unpacking that. And what you see again is this emphasis on your gender studies, your emphasis on this hatred of America, this anti-American curriculum. You see all the LGBTQ plus issues being pushed. What you don't see is that emphasis on math proficiency. What you don't see are aggressive programs like the tutoring programs we launched in Oklahoma to say, look, if you're struggling, we're going to help you. We're going to get you the resources you need. Instead, what you see is a continued focus. And again, you put that really well, Scarlett. It's more about how woke you are than how well you do math and how well you read. And so when you start unpacking these things, it has this massive ripple effect. They don't learn it in high school. So then they've got to go back in college. And they get out of college and they still can barely do math. And then they enter and they try to go get a job and they're still unable to do some of the basic functions that, frankly, we should have been able to teach them in our K-12 system.
When you dive into that report, and it was specifically about University of California, San Diego students, one of the highest ranking colleges in this country, I think it's ranked 27, that's 45,000 students on its campus, and 20% of those students couldn't answer a second grade math question. A second grade math question. And then even more, by 30-fold, they couldn't answer math questions that were intended for 8th grade students. This is a crisis. And instead of forming a something to address this, you see right here, Randy Weingarten, a task force on LGBTQIA plus rights. There should be a task force on math and reading and science and why our kids are falling so far behind. Instead, they're focused on this.
Yeah, and I mean, and they're, frankly, they are becoming more open about their goals and initiatives, aren't they? I mean, they really don't care. They don't care if the kids can read. They don't care if the kids can do math. What they care about is, are you guys going to go in and join our left-wing agenda? And so instead of those pushes for things that would actually be helpful for academics, instead of empowering the parents, with tutoring programs and all the curriculum they could even use at home, things like that would be very, very helpful. What you continue to see them doing is they continue to push their agenda. And as parents continue to speak out against them, frankly, you see how hard they hold on to their power structure. I mean, they fight even harder to keep their power in place. And that's where, we continue to fight against, first of all, getting teachers to leave. And first of all, get them to understand how bad the union is. Because a lot of teachers, they don't know exactly where all their money is going when they're in the teachers union. And then number two is to get them to opt out. Optouttoday.com is a website that we've got to help teachers get out. And then to join the Teacher Freedom Alliance to say, listen, we want to partner with parents. We want to focus on academics. We want to address when kids aren't proficient in math or proficient in reading. And we want to create good American citizens. That's the other part of this as well, as we're talking about math, reading, and science, we've also got to strengthen that understanding of American history, love of country, patriotism, and citizenship. These are the basics we've got to get back to, not LGBTQ plus issues that is just absolute nonsense to inject into our schools.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. When you look at the overall scores across the country, it's easy to deduce that when our kids are graduating high school, they are completely unprepared for college. I have heard some friends of mine that work in the university say that college is the new high school, that basically they have to spend the better part of their first and second year just getting them a high school education. And these are the top kids, the kids coming from the schools across the country that are ranked high. So, I mean, what does that say if you are struggling in an inner city school district? I think a lot of the so-called woke policies that are intended to help disadvantaged students actually hurt them the most.
Oh, I 100% agree with that. And what you see is all of this victim blaming or victimhood, all of this CRT, DEI, all of that nonsense. It actually hurts the people that they claim they're trying to help with that. What would be helpful is back to an understanding of high expectations, high academic standards is actually incredibly beneficial for kids. We all know that have kids, right? Parents and grandparents out there. Kids will rise to the level of expectations you put on them, whether that's their behavior or whether that's their academic performance. Again, if you expect low things of kids, oftentimes that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you expect high things of them, again, kids are capable of great things. God created every kid uniquely with unique talents. But what you continue to see is this participation trophy mentality, this, hey, make excuses for every child, turn them into a victim. That's one of the most damaging things you can do to kids, instead of telling them what you should, which is, hey, you are capable of greatness. You are capable of really having a positive impact on the world around you. You're capable of getting a great job, of creating a great job. You're capable of having a family and living a life that fulfills you with a lot of contentment and finding truth in this world. That's an empowering message. That is a hopeful message. That's an encouraging message. Their message not only hurts the kids, it actually puts them in very dark places where they don't believe that they can actually do anything with their life or actually have hope.
So this is a Truth Social post by the president. Great job, Oklahoma State Superintendent Ryan Walters. Strong, decisive, and knows his stuff. I love Oklahoma. So real quickly, you became the state superintendent of Oklahoma. And that's, I would think, boy, that's a red state. There's probably no DEI in Oklahoma. Would I be wrong?
You would be wrong. We had to fight very, very hard to get DEI, CRT, pornographic books out of our schools. I was actually sued by some of the largest school districts in the state for telling them to take gender, queer, and flamer out of elementary school libraries. So superintendents were fighting so hard to keep those books in their elementary school libraries. They sued me and took me to the state Supreme Court over it. So, I mean, listen, the education system is controlled by woke left-wing teachers unions, administrators, and an establishment system that is there to indoctrinate your kids. So when you come in, you've got to come in as a change agent. We fought. We were able to have the biggest reforms in the country in Oklahoma by taking that head on. But it doesn't matter how red your state is. The education system is one of the last institutions that is still controlled by the left. And by the way, that's where I applaud President Trump so much for his efforts to say, listen, we're not here to reform the federal Department of Education. We're here to get rid of it. And it's so key because President Trump understands, hey, you just can't move a few people around or change an initiative here. This system is corrupted. And so he is so spot on with eliminating the Department of Education. You've got to come into states. And frankly, one more point on that. It's so important once we eliminate the federal Department of Education that we also get rid of the teachers unions, because if we don't get rid of the teachers unions, you lose the federal Department of Education that gave the left so much control. But then the teachers unions will just step into that power vacuum and take that control for themselves. So it's so important that we continue a two-pronged approach, eliminate the federal Department of Education, which President Trump and Secretary McMahon are doing, and eliminate teachers unions.
So you can see Wall Street Journal opinion, they just put out this excellent article. Big labor bosses favor Democratic candidates isn't news, but unionized workers might be interested to learn how much of their dues money is going to politics. And that's something that your organization is trying to point out to teachers, that your money is being spent to elect woke radical people, and it's not being spent to further the mission of teaching, to help children. This money, it's pure political politics. They're acting like a PAC, not a public interest group.
No, that's exactly right. The teachers union is a money laundering scheme for the Democrat Party. That's what they are. What they do is they sit here, they go to the teachers, they claim that we're just a group of teachers that are here to support you and do A, B, and C. You know, that's all we are. Teachers agree and join. A lot of states are bullied, pressured to join. They're part of their paycheck goes into the union. They never know where all those union dues go, what all they do. And then what we see is over 90% of their political donations are to the Democrat Party. What we see is them funneling millions and millions into these races for some of the most extreme candidates in the country. And so part of our campaign is getting the word out to teachers of, guys, they are literally taking your money, not to help support you, but to support these radical left-wing candidates. And so that's a key part of our initiative, is to defund the unions, get the money out of the unions Teachers, we're going to free you. We want you to be the best teacher you can be. We don't want you to be controlled by one of the most radical Marxist organizations in this country's history. But that first part of just letting them know where their dues is going, honestly, is very powerful and causes a lot of teachers to leave on that note alone.
Yes, I don't think that they joined these unions to become activists. I think they joined to teach and to provide protection for themselves and their job. I feel like they've been betrayed, and I hope the more that they learn, they feel that way too. And they have the ability to opt out of unions. Like in Wisconsin, Act 10, like they can opt out of unions, but I'm telling you, there's a concerted effort in my state to repeal that and again, force them back into the unions. That is high on the agenda, and probably part of the reason why we've just learned that the Democratic Socialists of America feel like they have some tailwinds, and they are investing heavily now into school board races next year. I've just read that they've targeted like 210, 212 school board races with DSA candidates. That's George Soros money. So we are in a very precarious position. And we need groups like yours and like mine, Moms for Liberty, to fight back harder than ever, because I think they're seeing the gains that we have made and that the Trump administration has made. And they're now, the empire is striking back.
No, that's such a great point. And something, George Soros, there's two things he does in part of his overall strategy. Remember, it was about a couple decades ago that he started investing in all these local DA races. And people are going, why is Soros money going into DA races? Well, you see why. Because even in red states, when you pass good legislation, if the DA is a left-wing activist, it doesn't matter because they're not going to enforce the law, right? And they're going to use lawfare against conservatives. I see a similar strategy going on with Soros and these school boards, right? Hey, red states, you can pass an anti-CRT law if you want. If I control the school boards, that local school district is still going to force CRT anyway. It is such a part of what we've seen from the left, which is, hey, no matter what you do, we are going to find ways around it anyway. And that's where we have to stay vigilant on getting involved in those elections. We've got to stay vigilant in making sure that you've got good folks running, good folks being supported. And again, there is nothing more powerful than a parent who raises a red flag on an issue in a district, on a parent going to a school board meeting, on a parent running for office. That is one of the most powerful things in the world, I believe, is to have a parent say, this is my child. What's being done to them is not helpful to them. It's harmful to them. This is what I want for my child. I frankly don't know how you have people that argue against that, and these elite leftist educrats that come in and say, no, we know better for you, for your kid. It's outrageous. The American people reject that notion. But you make a great point here. George Soros is doubling and tripling down. The empire will strike back. Mm-hmm. So we have got to remain vigilant, and we've got to stay smart with our strategy to counter that.
Yes, then conservatives and Republicans have to invest their time and energy into organizations like ours that we know what we're doing. We have been fighting this for 5 years, and I know many members that they've been fighting this way longer. I've just talked to some folks that they knew what was happening in 2012. They're from California. So we know how to win these races. It's just we're operating on shoestring budgets. So we need the investment of resources and people running for office, people helping those who are running for office to combat this orchestrated strategy on the left that should surprise no one. It should surprise no one that they're going to try to look moderate. They're going to try and look like they care about kids, but you don't care about kids if your number one goal in life is to shove gender queer down their throats when they're in elementary school. I would show some images of that book, but then I would be censored on social media. That is how bad that material is. It's actually the worst of the worst. So is Flamer. And that's unreal that you are fighting that in Oklahoma. That's just kind of unbelievable.
And you make a great point about this too. And I want to make sure and that your audience understands what you just said there, which is what what we are all up against. The reality is the left, listen, I will give them credit on this. They are incredibly organized. that they are incredibly strategic with what they do, right? They have built out and captured institutions. They have utilized and taken advantage of taxpayers in the education system. So when you look at the teachers unions, I talked a lot today about money, and I talked a lot today about the millions and millions of dollars that they take from teachers that are frankly taxpayer dollars that they use for political purposes. But the other thing that they do that is very, very tough is they are able to organize millions of people across the country with these union associations that they have, and they are able to then utilize them into running for office, utilize them into going and supporting candidates, utilizing them to going and protest, fight against President Trump. But you saw one of the big the No Kings rallies. They were one of the ones behind that. But when you see Moms for Liberty and other groups, when they are jumping into these elections, they are going against a machine that has been doing this for decades, that know how to organize, have, again, frankly, used taxpayer dollars to organize, have built out these operations that it is incredibly difficult to defeat. Now, we can do it, but we've got to work together. We've got to move behind these conservative principles. And to your point, Moms for Liberty knows what they're doing. Moms for Liberty has been in this fight. Again, these are things that we've got to consider moving forward. Is we've got to continue to support good candidates. We've got to continue to get involved, and we've got to support the groups that know what they're doing and equip them to fight back.
Yes, we've won. This was just in the Daily Caller. I just posted about this. We won over half of the school board races that we endorsed. Over half of our candidates won. And when you consider, it's huge considering what we're up against, the machine that we're up against, and how we have taken our limited resources and just tried to apply them and target some races and endorse some candidates. And over half won. And then one of the big reasons that they cite for their win is what's happening in schools. It's the fact that schools are more focused on this LGBTQIA plus agenda and providing kids age inappropriate materials than they are about actually educating kids. And for your organization now, for those parents tuning in, I think, could you explain to them what Teacher Freedom Alliance is and how it's different from the other unions that we've been battling for years?
Yeah, so we're not a union. What the union does is they come in to take you back to that. What the union does is they come in, they tell teachers they have to join. We're going to negotiate. We're going to collectively bargain. We're going to represent you. We're going to go into the district and ask for more money, do this and that. So what we say is, guys, you don't have to do any of those things. First of all, there's a Supreme Court ruling, Janus, that says you don't have to. But number two, guys, you can negotiate your own contracts. You can be part of a district contract. There's nothing that says you've got to be part of a union to do those things. So what we tell teachers are, hey, listen, what do you need as a teacher? Some teachers say they're concerned about their liability insurance. Well, what if I get sued? What if something happens? We provide that for them. The second thing they say is, well, I've got to go get professional development to continue to keep my license, my certificate. And I've got to go back to the unions to get the trainings to keep my license, and we provide that in all states. So again, what we're able to do is come in and say, teachers, here's what we're going to do. We'll provide those things for you, but we're going to train you on how to teach your academic subject to the best you can. No woke nonsense, no left-wing nonsense. The other thing that we're going to do is teach you how to create good American citizens. We train teachers on American history. We train them in the Constitution, the Federalist Papers, the Declaration of Independence. And then lastly, we teach them how to fight back against left-wing extremism in the school, how to fight back against the teachers union and their tactics. So what it is it is a way for us to get good teachers in the classroom, good teachers equipped to teach your kids. And then frankly, the last part, that providing them the tools needed to fight back, because they are in the middle of this fight as well with you, the parents, against these left-wing extremists, the teachers unions. We try to make sure that they know exactly how they can fight back and exactly how they can win this war and get our schools back on track.
I was just at a conference with Defending Education, and the keynote speaker was Miss Snuffy. I'm sure you've heard of her. She's the British school head mistress that's famous. She's really wonderful. And she said that when she gets new teachers every year, She has them sit through basically an anti-DEI course. Starts off with this like week-long course where she kind of drills into them just basically that the real truth behind gender ideology. And she does it in a way, she said, it takes about a year. But after a year, she starts off that way. But after a year, we're constantly sending articles and just sitting down and talking with them and providing them just an alternative that they're transformed, that they see the world differently. Plus, they are working with these students, and most of them come from disadvantaged backgrounds, and they're applying real world working principles in the classroom, and they see kids flourish, and it's amazing. So I think it's huge what you're doing, providing an alternative, because teachers are required for their licensure to go to a certain amount of hours of professional development every year, but they can't be forced to go to a certain development. So if you're providing an alternative, that's huge. That means that they're actually getting real tools, and they also don't have to sit through indoctrination and possibly be influenced by it.
No, that's exactly right. And that's where we're able to come in and say, listen, we can do this where you've got good people that don't want any part of that. But frankly, a lot of good teachers say, yeah, but I don't know what to do. I don't know what else to do. I'm going to lose my job if I don't get these hours. And so again, providing that for them, giving them very good professional development, getting them, again, a better understanding of American history and a better understanding of what parents want. We always talk to the teachers about this. It's so important, and we teach them ways. And again, we work with groups like Moms for Liberty to say, hey, here's what the parents are asking for. This is what you've got to make sure you provide for the kids. And again, the teachers we work with are going, that's exactly what we want to do. And so again, as we continue to grow, we've got thousands of members across the country. We're going to continue to find these good teachers, train them, but also help them fight back, because again, we've got to take these districts back. We got to have good, bold leadership from teachers. And so again, we think it's so crucial in this fight to get the schools back on track that we've got good teachers that are willing to engage and fight back.
What we hear from teachers is that a lot of times they're afraid to speak up. They fear retaliation, like you said, from union. How widespread is that intimidation?
What was that last part?
How widespread is that intimidation, do you think?
Oh, it's very widespread. You see it some in red states, but you see it in the blue states where they are intimidated to join the union. They are doxxed. We've seen people show up at their house. We were in Colorado Springs a few weeks ago, and we saw that the union tried to go on strike, and teachers went and taught anyway. And the union came out calling them scabs. They protested them, tried to go meet them at the doors. We're making Facebook posts about where they live, everything else. So, the intimidation is very strong for teachers to join the union. If they leave, they're often targeted. We have members that tell us stories about all of a sudden they leave the union and their administrators start targeting them as well. And so it is a very difficult battle for teachers that want to leave the union to, first of all, just leave it. The union makes it incredibly difficult to leave. But then secondly is deal with the repercussions that come from the union bullying you and targeting you once you leave.
Wow, that makes what you're doing so important. If you could wave a magic wand and the Teacher Freedom Alliance succeeds, which I think it will, what do you think American education could look like 5 years from now?
I love that question. Here's what I see. If we succeed in what we're doing, what you're going to see are schools that look transformatively different. You're going to see schools where parent involvement is absolutely the center of everything that they do. So you'll see parents back in classrooms. You'll see parents very involved in curriculum decisions. You would see a family unit very engaged in an educational product. You would see schools promoting Americanism. Think about that. Think about an education system where our schools are actually saying, we want you to be patriotic. We want you to love America. We understand that is key to our core mission as schools in America, is to continue the greatest country in the history of the world that is front and center of everything that we do. And then lastly, an emphasis on academic performance where you see the ability for kids to go in different pathways throughout their school experience. Where, hey, if they decide that they want to do this job or that job or go to college, these paths can be accelerated for them. High expectations means that kids are going to pursue their dreams in a much different way. So you're going to see an education system that's patriotic, that is family oriented, where families are back involved. And lastly, you're going to see kids hitting these expectations. You're going to see schools unlock potential for learners, which means a continued, you talk about getting a job, you talk about all those things and what they mean for a kid. What it really means is a fulfilled life, because there's nothing more fulfilling in life than utilizing your God-given talents, having a family, finding that truth in this world of what truth is, which is what education should be seeking out. You see families that stay intact. You see a stronger society. You see a stronger America. That's where I see the country going when we're successful.
That sounds amazing. So in closing, if you had 30 seconds to speak directly to every teacher who feels trapped in this system, what would you say to them right now?
I would say, listen, there is, it's a free country. Practice your freedom. Join the Teacher Freedom Alliance. Go to teacherfreedom.com. Get out of the union. You got into education because you want to help kids. You want parents to partner with you to have a great educational product for their children, because you want kids to be successful. You do not have to go through the teachers unions. We can absolutely help you and equip you to be able to do that. And we're going to have your back. If the teachers union comes after you, if the school district comes after you, we've got attorneys ready to go to fight that fight with you. So we're going to be fighting alongside you. But again, we want to help you fulfill your dream, which is helping kids in the classroom and helping parents. And so that's what we're here to do. And we would love to work with you.
Yes, and I have right here on screen. I love that public education is worth saving, because it absolutely is. I know there's been a surge in attendance to private schools and homeschooling, and that's wonderful. But the majority of Americans are going to be educated in a public school. And you can't just say, pull your kids out, because there are rural areas, as you know, where there are no options. And there are parents who cannot homeschool their kids, whether they're a single parent or they just can't financially do it. So public education needs to be saved. We can't just leave all of these children behind, and we can't leave all of the teachers behind either. And it's so great that your organization is providing so many different services, the legal help, the professional development, and the support system, so that they don't have to feel alone. I know a lot of teachers, when they finally are red-pilled and they basically are forever changed, they can feel really alone until they talk with organizations like ours and yours, and then they suddenly realize, oh wait, there are a whole bunch of people that think just like me, but we've all been cowed into silence.
No, that's right. I mean, the community is so important. That's one of the things as we have teachers that join. One of the first things they say is, this is amazing to be, connected with hundreds and thousands of teachers that think like I do. I felt so isolated in my district or in my building, but now I'm part of this broader community. And I just think it's so important as we continue to move forward that we're able to connect patriots together, that we're able to all work together to continue this fight forward, to make sure that we're able to accomplish these things. Because again, as you continue to see, the left does that. The left, hey, they are connecting every left-wing radical group in the country is working together to destroy this country. Patriots need to work together to save this country. And so I think it's so important that we're able to connect these teachers with the good parents, with the patriots across the country to save it.
Well, I think that's a perfect way to end. That's mic drop. There you go. So Ryan, thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you for being a joyful warrior in this battle for the hearts and minds of America's children, for your work in Oklahoma, and now that your work you're trying to do nationally. We are so grateful at Moms for Liberty. We love you. We are so happy to have you at our Joyful Warrior Summit on our panel. And I got to talk to you behind the stage too. And so it was really great. So I'm so grateful you and for Teacher Freedom Alliance. Your work is so necessary in a time like this. Thank you. And if there's then I think we're done there.
Awesome. No,
yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unleashed with Scarlett Johnson, presented by Moms for Liberty. My guest today is a powerhouse for truth and courage. I'm so excited to have her on. Jennifer Say. She is a former Team USA gymnast, and now she is CEO of XXXY Athletics and one of the fiercest voices defending fairness, biological reality, and dignity for women and girls in sports and in their private spaces. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for coming on my show today. I'm so excited to have you.
Thanks for having me, Scarlett. It'll be fun to talk to you.
Yes. Just kind of just chatting. There's so much going on. I was just going through your X feed and I'm like, okay, there's this to talk about, there's that to talk about. There's a lot to discuss. I want to mention that you consistently call out Nike and other major athletic apparel and shoe brands for not standing up for women, for not standing up for girls. I have the girls, teenage girls in my household who are athletes, and you know, they always want the Nike shoes, you know, Nike gear, but they're not standing up for women and girls. They're making a lot of money off of female athletes, but they're not really speaking out for them.
No, I mean, Nike has a long history of treating women very poorly, with astonishing disregard, in fact. And I think it's that divide between how they pretend to support female athletes. They pretend and they make a lot of money off of, you know, a you go girl female athlete point of view. And yet behind the scenes and not so behind the scenes, they've always treated women with astonishing disregard. And that's their own employees. And there was an expose written by the New York Times back in 2018 about 100 female executives who talked about terrible instances of harassment, sexual harassment, like being forced to go to strip clubs with dudes at work and like just really bad stuff. So that was in the New York Times. No one cared. Around the same time, there was a story about Allison Felix, who is one of the best track and field athletes ever. And she was a Nike athlete, and they basically refused to pay her when she was pregnant, though she had a contract. And then, to my mind, the worst story of all, these all dropped around the same time. They had something called the Oregon Running Project, which was a training club for runners. And Mary Kane was a young runner, the best in the world, who went to them and was physically and emotionally abused to the point of suicidality. And she went in the best young runner in the world and came out just completely crushed and broken. And so this has nothing to do with the issue we're going to talk about, but I think it sets a precedent for how poorly they treat women. And so it's not surprising to me that they are not on the side of real women in the case of protecting women's sports, and they just skirt the issue, but off to the side, they take the opposite side, you know, whether it's featuring Dylan Mulvaney in an ad for running bras, a man with no boobs who's not an athlete, or whether it's supporting research to better understand how much we can degrade young boys with wrong sex hormones so that they could viably compete against girls. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but yeah, this is not a company that supports women. So I quite enjoy calling them out. And I will just say one more thing, Scarlett, it is the biggest company. It is the biggest name in sports, bigger than the NFL and the NBA combined. It is huge. If they weighed in on this, it would be fixed tomorrow.
Yes. And you've said, and I quote, the biggest name in sports is also the biggest name in betrayal. I love that quote, because if they were to call this out, like you said, it would end. It would be such a big deal. It would like force everyone to come to terms with the fact that we're dealing with biological reality. So why won't they?
Well, why won't anyone?
That could be a long answer because they're afraid to buck up against, you know.
I mean, they're in Oregon, like near Portland, in a little town called Beaverton. They're filled with super woke employees. They believe that's everyone. They live in a bubble. They don't realize that most of America disagrees with them on this point. And I want to go back in time a little, Scarlett. In 2018, they started an ad campaign with an athlete by the name of Caster Semenya. Do you know who that is?
No.
Okay, so Caster Semenya is a male with a what they call a DSD. So he has disordered sexual development, sex development. So he was born male, but probably mistaken for female, underdeveloped male genitalia. That's sad. I mean, I have total empathy. At some point though, it became clear that he was male, probably around puberty. Well, this athlete competed in the women's category. I'm going to forget what in track and field, I think the 800 meters, and won a gold medal at the Olympics in 2016. He is a male with a DSD. They did not do sex testing. At a certain point though, his femaleness was called into question. There was some testing. He had abnormally high levels of testosterone that never appear in women, even with hormonal disorders. So, and now World Athletics has set a clear rule that you must be female to compete in women's sports. So Semenya is refusing to do the testing because he knows, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Nike did a whole campaign starting in 2018 about Caster Semenya just being a different kind of woman and how we're all just bigots if we don't accept Caster. No, Caster's not trans. I want to be clear about that, but it doesn't matter. It's a man saying he's a woman and competing in the women's category. And they made it about race and bigotry to call that, his sex into question. It's not race or bigotry at play. He's a man.
And there are biological advantages. You said the testosterone, that the biology makes it inherently unfair. That's all that you're saying, that there's biological reality that you can't ignore.
Yeah, no, like I said, I have total empathy for a person who has a difference in sex development. I'm sure that's a very difficult thing to have to grow up with. I'm sure that if he was in fact raised as a girl, learning that he was not, that was a traumatic experience. I have no doubt. But he is a male and he cannot compete in women's sports, and we cannot sacrifice women's rights for men's feelings. It just doesn't work that way. Go compete in men's. So Nike, I think, did a lot to normalize this idea that if you say you're a woman, you are, whether it's trans or DSDs or whatever. It's not. If you're not a woman unless you have XX chromosomes and your body is organized around producing eggs. It's that simple. So I think Nike's done a lot of harm in this area. They continue to do weird stuff off to the side. They're not getting it. They're woke. They just don't know, to come back to your answer. They believe they're like the civil rights heroes of our day. It's crazy. It's crazy. Scarlett, I don't know, why does anyone persist in this bizarre thinking that men are women if they just think they are?
No, I don't know either. It's hard to understand, but you have developed XXXY. So we can lament all day, but they're not changing their minds. So what can we do? Well, we can put our money into another product that does recognize biological reality. And so you're providing something different, high quality, really cute. I love your stuff. I love all the, and you keep expanding and growing. So why don't you talk about that? Your decision to, you're not just going to complain about it anymore. You're going to do something.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have an obligation to use our unique skill sets. And my skill is brand management and brand development and understanding culture and how to influence culture. I did it for years as the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer at Levi's. I've written books and made films, and that's what I like to do. So I'm not a legislator or a politician. I'm not even a media pundit. I'm a business person. And I think that there's this huge gap in the marketplace for a brand that actually stands up for and supports women and supports the integrity of women's sports. And I think most people agree with us. And what I can do with XXXY Athletics is normalize standing up and saying, you know what? Women's sports are for women. That should be a totally normal thing to say, right? And for some reason, people are afraid to do it. The 80% of Americans that agree with you and me are terrified to do it because they get punished for it. I mean, we can talk about Elizabeth Eddy in a second, but they do. But if I can make amazing product that performs with great content, it puts us in the mainstream a little bit. I think we play a unique role. And if I can wear this sweatshirt or the one you're showing on screen to my daughter's soccer game or to the gym, and someone else sees it and they go, oh, I can say that?
Yeah.
It's like you chip away and you just make it a little more normal every day to stand up and say a totally normal thing.
I want to play one of your ads that I really like.
Nike.
Dear Nike.
Dear Nike, why won't you stand up for me?
Why won't you stand up for me? Why won't you?
Why do you claim to support women and girls? Yet when we need you most,
You remain silent.
Today, males are claiming our identity.
Our sports,
Our spaces.
men and boys are stealing opportunities, medals, trophies, and our future.
And it's not fair or just.
In fact, it's often dangerous. Yet you refuse to use your platform to stand up.
You say you're for social justice and progress.
So why do you allow men's rights to come before ours? See, with a big platform,
Comes an even bigger responsibility.
you have a chance to do the right thing, not just do the easy thing.
So we're asking you, Nike.
So we're asking you, Nike,
So we're asking you, Nike.
as the biggest voice in all of sports,
Will you stand up for me? Will you stand up for me?
will you stand up for me? Will you stand up for me? Will you?
Will you?
Will you just do it?
She's so cute.
I love it. That's so clever. Will you just do it? I love it. That
And if for the weirdo, like ad obsessed people who've been in the business for a long time, they might remember an ad that Nike did back in 2011 called "If You Let Me Play," and we sort of mirrored the style of that ad on purpose. And it was a brilliant ad. It made me really proud to be in the business. And it essentially showcased young girls talking about all of the benefits of participation in sport. If you let me play, I'll be less depressed. I'll have better self-esteem. I'll be more likely to graduate from high school. All these things that are absolutely 1,000% true. And it was a remarkably beautiful ad. And yet they won't acknowledge the elephant in the room right now, Nike, that fewer girls will play if they don't have a fair playing field. If you know that you don't have an even shot of winning or of making the team because there's a bunch of boys who get to take your spot, eventually girls will stop playing. And quite frankly, as long as there's a single boy that breaches the boundary of girls' sports, they're not girls' sports anymore. So we were just sort of challenging Nike to stand up here. This was our first viral ad. We did it in October of 2024, so 6 months into our existence, and it went crazy viral in a few days. It's just such a simple execution, but those girls just touched your heart.
they did. Yeah, they did. And I think my daughter this week is tryouts for basketball team, and if there was a biological male or a few of them, I can guarantee you a lot of those girls would just like, no, I'm not. It doesn't feel right. Winning doesn't feel authentic.
Yeah.
And losing really hurts and physically can hurt when their bodies are caused physical damage.
Yeah.
In many stories, it's just not fair. Girls don't want to win by cheating.
It's a great point.
And they don't want
to
lose that way either. And
well, they definitely don't want to lose, but you're raising a point I think that doesn't get made often enough, which is, I do think you're right. Most girls want a fair playing field. They don't want to stack the deck in their favor by stacking the team with a bunch of boys. Although it's interesting, Scarlett, I've asked myself this question because in National Women's Soccer, there are several males, with differences in sex development that play in the National Women's Soccer League, professional women's soccer. The best player in the world, in fact, is somebody who goes by Barbara Banda and plays for Orlando Pride. Highest paid player in the league, very clearly a male. And I wonder if the team does want him on the team so that they can win. I mean, I wonder if at the professional level anyway, because I wonder why the women put up with it. Because just a few weeks ago, the very first professional athlete spoke out. She wrote an op-ed. Her name is Elizabeth Eddy, and she plays in the National Women's Soccer League. And she wrote an op-ed in the politest of terms saying we need clear boundaries around women's sports. And a few days later, her own teammates, the captain of her own team, Angel City FC, excoriated her in a press conference, smearing her, calling her every name from, racist to bigot to everything you can think of. And why do women want it? I'll never understand why do women want to put up with this. But I think in some cases, maybe they don't mind. I think the real motivating factor, I'm thinking out loud, Scarlett, isn't that they want to win. I still think the motivating factor is they get sort of social justice claps, Yes. I think that women want to be nice.
No, I heard her on Fox and Friends. Was it Laura Ingraham? I think she was on, and she was so kind, even to those who had disparaged her.
She was.
I just want to be friends with you. You're still invited to my wedding. I just, and she also said that privately that other females, like, well, it's an all female team, so they should all be females. The other
Yeah.
teams said to her, like, I agree with you, but they just didn't want to
Gumption.
stand up. They didn't have the courage to stand up. So you are doing something unique, and that's what I have up here, that
Yeah.
you offered money to other female athletes who will stand up and speak out. Because very likely she was going to lose any endorsements that she has. Like, they're going to draft her.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. And I don't,
compensate.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if Elizabeth has any. She's been in the league 11 years. She's not one of the top players. Doesn't matter. She's an amazing athlete. I wanted to, put the offer out there, and I did it from the brand. I don't have, Nike money. Nike's a $50 billion company, but a lot of these women don't have sponsorship deals. So I offered $10,000, and then a private person messaged me private saying he'd add 5,000 to it, and then Clay Travis said he would double it. So there's $30,000 on the table, which is a lot. The average salary in the National Women's Soccer League is about $48,000. So 30 is a really nice payday. And yeah, I mean, there's people who are critical because of me for making this offer, because they say, well, then that's just a mercenary act. No, not really. I want to take the sting out of monetary cancellation. If you can't get another sponsorship, I'll give you one. All these other companies pay way more money, and you don't consider that mercenary. So why shouldn't they be compensated for their courage and bravery? I've had a taker or two discussing it behind the scenes. I won't reveal any more than that now.
That's awesome. So, like, encourage others to speak out. And like you said, the average salary under $50,000 a year, which means they're going to make up for that probably through sponsorships. That's a way to make it worthwhile. That's not a lot of money to make these, especially these days. That's very little, and it's a great deal of sacrifice and a lot of time. And probably you have to put off a lot of things in order to do this because you love it. You love the sport. There are. To make $48,000 a year, it just is very little. So
yeah, it's not that much. And
Yeah.
they are in major cities like Los Angeles and Miami. I mean, it's tough to live on $48,000 in Los Angeles,
I don't know how you would do it. I mean, you're living basically like you're in college still with roommates and all of that. So there is there could be financial pressure. Like, if I speak out, maybe I have a few small sponsorship deals and I'll lose them, and
that's right.
It will hurt me. But I think if they're in big cities, I would guess, because I've been doing this for a while, it is the pressure, the societal pressure, the pressure of what people will say to you on social media, that they will be mean to you, that, you won't, that friends might drop you and unfollow you and cancel you. Like, that is still very real for these girls.
Yes, the social ostracizing is a real risk. I would say it's not just a risk, it's an almost certainty. Look at what happened to Elizabeth Eddy. It's like what you just described times 100. Her teammates did a press conference to call her a racist. Who wants that? I mean, it's sort of easier to go, I'll just stay over here. Like, I think this is wrong, but I'm just going to wait for other people to deal with it. I get it. But you're a female athlete who has benefited from female only sports, and it just feels like pulling up the ladder behind you. It feels so wrong not to take a stand for this very simple thing. And I promise you, Scarlett, as we continue to make progress, and we will win in the end, because truth will out in the end, a lot of female athletes are going to join later when they feel that there's enough critical mass that it's safe, and they're going to pretend they were there all along. And that's fine. I will welcome them. But I think it is a bit cowardly, and I also understand at the same time, as someone that's endured pretty serious social ostracizing, it's not fun. I mean, I don't know if I would have done it in my 20s. I did it in my 50s.
And we have to say, like, you were an athlete, so you understand all of the time and commitment that you can put into your craft. And it's not, I don't want to be too flippant and say, well, you should just give it all up.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, that Elizabeth talked about that on, I can't remember what show she was on, but she said you have to understand we train our whole lives. And here's the thing, if the team ostracizes you, then the coach can. They just never give you any playing time. Maybe your contract is up with that team and you're a free agent and no one recruits you. It's like your career could literally end. And I will tell you, as a former female athlete, I think my sport was probably worse than some, but obedience is considered a real virtue in athletics. And we very much felt we were to be seen and not heard. And you weren't to challenge the coaches. You weren't to challenge what I would call what is really abusive behavior that we endured. And so you learn to just keep your mouth shut. You want to get picked for the team. Gymnastics is a really subjective sport. If they don't like you, your scores will be worse. Even if you make the team, the national coach won't put you in the lineup. There's all kinds of things that can happen, and you have trained your whole life. You give up everything. I mean, I didn't do anything else as a young person. I was training 6, 7, 8 hours a day, 10 in the summer. I didn't go to prom. I didn't even go to school all day.
Yep.
So
I
that's a lot to sacrifice.
When my daughter was in ballet, she got to a point where she could, if she were to go farther and try to even try to be a professional ballerina, we would have to make a decision at 13 years old that she would never go to high school. She would never have a prom. We'd have to take all of that away so she could just day and night focus on ballet just for a shot. And she really wanted to do it. And we made the decision, no, like that we thought it was too much. And,
I love that.
A lot of times
Good for you.
that, but we thought she's going to make this decision based on her 13-year-old brain. But when she's 13, will she like hate us for it? Thinking like, why didn't you let me have a life? But then again, I respect so much athletes that give up all of that, and families, and it's very expensive. All of this. Yeah. I mean, you all the private lessons, all of that. I mean, if you don't have a kid that's really dedicated to sport, then you don't know how much it can cost. It's a lot. It's always
and the time and the commitment, and you get so sucked in. And I moved away from home. I was living on my own, not on my own. I mean, I lived with a coach at 14. I had no outside adult to kind of monitor and take care of my, psychological well-being. I didn't care. I just wanted it. I think I was probably a hard child to parent. I was just very insistent that this is what I wanted. Yes. But yeah, it's hard for regular people to understand what you give up. I mean, I have almost no memories of my childhood and adolescence that aren't gymnastics related, because everything else got crowded out. Nothing else mattered. And I'm proud of what I was able to achieve. But I really respect your decision that you made with your daughter. I think it's actually the right one. I feel very strongly that you only are a child for a very brief time. There's plenty of time to do punishing hard work as an adult. And I want my kids to be kids. My son is 11 and very dedicated to soccer, but I hope that I make the space in his life to also be a kid.
Yes, I think that, parents, if you have your kid in any league sport, because I think if you're older, you may not understand that your kids just don't join high school sports. Like they need to be. No. My daughter has been playing basketball since she was in preschool, and it never stops. As soon as one league's over, she has to do another one, AAU, all this, and another league or this or that, constantly playing just to make the varsity team in high school, because everyone's doing it, and in private coaching, it's all of that. And I've similar experience when one of my other daughters was in ballet. Son was in tennis. It's just very intense. And my son was in soccer up until high school. And it's really intense, and it's a big sacrifice early. And I loved my kids being involved in sports, but it's a lot.
It's a huge commitment. And when you have multiple children, it's crazy. I have 4 kids. The older 2 didn't do sports. They're grown now, but it's a lot. And so, to bring it back to our issue, these young girls, these teenage girls, they put their heart and soul into it, their life, their families put money and time and energy, and they deserve. And you know what? Here's the other thing. If you are an athlete, a highly competitive athlete, you lose a lot. You can handle losing. This isn't about losing. In fact, I think that's one of the benefits of sport is you lose more than you win. You learn to get up and keep trying. You learn perseverance. But you don't have to accept an unfair playing field. We would not accept performance enhancing drugs, not one instance. So why would we accept male advantage, which is greater than performance enhancing drugs? It's ridiculous. And I feel like, Scott, I can't believe I spent however many years now talking about this because it's so ridiculous. And at some point, everybody's going to be like, well, of course, women's sports are just for women. But we are living in the upside down right now. And people are afraid to actually say what is so obviously true, but we're going to chip away at it. And every day we're going to bring one more mom and one more athlete over to our side, and we're going to win.
Yes.
But it's going to be a slog, and we just got to keep going. That's it. We just got to lock arms and keep going.
I like that you said it's not about losing, because that's what the left will say. That's what Ocasio-Cortez just tried to do with Riley Gaines. Like, oh yeah, maybe if you wouldn't be a loser, you know, like kind of really mean girl type thing. I mean, come on, if you're an athlete, you lose all the time. It is rare when you win. When you win,
Right.
You're crying. That's why your family's crying. When your team, it's so rare to win. It's such.
But that's right, and we can handle losing.
Yes,
We can.
She's
We could totally
6'4"
dude. And you know what? She could have not even made NCAAs and said that wasn't fair. But here's the thing: that kind of childish insult is the same as just resorting to "you're a racist" or "you're a bigot." Or, you know, when I spoke out in 2008, I wrote a book about abuse in the sport of gymnastics, emotional, physical, and sexual abuse, and I was the first Team USA athlete to do it. It was the same thing, Scarlett. They called me a loser and a grifter, and I was a terrible gymnast, and I was the worst national team member that ever was, and I was a terrible national team, because they couldn't say I was a loser. I was first in the country in 1986, but they said I was a terrible champion and the worst national champion, which very well may be true. Not the point. Does that mean I deserve to be abused by my coaches? No athlete does. So it's just what they resort to when they have no argument, insults. And it hasn't changed in a gazillion years. So you have to ignore the insults. And I think you'll find, if you do stand up and speak up, you'll find a community of women and men. More and more men are joining us, which I think is outstanding. And they're going to be from all backgrounds, all political persuasions, all religious backgrounds, but they believe in the truth. And you're just going to find that you have this amazing community. That doesn't change the fact that it's very difficult, because if you lose friends of decades, which I have, that's still hard. And people will say, well, they weren't your friends anyway. Well, it sure seemed like it when we were there for each other's baby showers and weddings and, you know, funerals of loved ones. And so it's hard, but you let it go and you stand in the truth and you find your people.
Well, speaking of girls with courage, you recently moderated a panel at the Moms for Liberty Joyful Warrior Summit in Orlando with 3 such young ladies that I had the privilege to meet. They are wonderful. The title of the panel was Goliaths and Their Path, Young Athletes That Spoke Up Anyway. And these 3 female athletes, Maddie Wilkin, Alexa Anderson, and Sophia Carpenter, shared their stories of being forced to compete with males. It was my favorite panel that we had. I was, you saw me backstage when I was interviewing, I was crying. I couldn't, like, these girls were so inspirational. So why don't you talk about that? Let's talk about the bravery of these girls and what they had to endure.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me to do that at Moms. We had the idea on our side to do it that way, and let the girls have the stage. And I think it was great. So 2 of the athletes you mentioned, Alexa and Sophia, are from Oregon. And they famously, well, there was another one. They've all sort of stood down from competing or from accepting and standing on the podium with a male athlete who won at the state track championships. And now they're suing the Department of Ed in Oregon for doing this. And then Maddie is somebody I know locally here in Colorado who's been very outspoken, spoken at school board meetings. She had to wrestle a male athlete a few years ago. And I just am so inspired by the courage of these young women. They're teenagers. And I feel quite convinced that these are the girls this army of young women across the country that are going to change things. It is not going to be the famous athletes, because the famous athletes are silent. They're too afraid of alienating either their fan base or losing endorsements or losing their friends. But these young girls, they're going to be the change makers. And we heard from them directly, and they're just so courageous, and they know in their hearts what is right, and they're willing to do it.
Yeah, and I have an image of the panel, and you can watch the whole panel at the Moms for Liberty YouTube channel. We've got it loaded up there. Courageous young athletes stand up for girls sports. I highly encourage you to watch it. They're so sweet. I love them.
But strong. They're sweet and strong.
They're fierce. They're fierce. I mean, and the parents too. We've got to acknowledge that the parents of these girls, I commend them, because they get a lot of heat. Like they also, I mean, they have to stand by their daughters, and a lot of parents will. And I know this because I have a lot of parents come to me and say, oh, here's a story, but we don't want to go. We're not going to go public. We're not going to attach our name to it.
Me too.
We introduce them to lawyers. No, we don't want to, go along with this lawsuit, when that's what will really change things, these lawsuits. All of these girls, they are willing to put their name out there. The families are standing by them. The families are willing to take this all the way. And if that means a lawsuit, and lawsuits can last years and years, and they're willing to do it. So this is bravery. This is what's going to change everything.
It's bravery. It's courage. It's integrity. It's, knowing it's going to be hard, but doing the right thing anyway, which is actually courage. It doesn't mean you're unafraid. It means you might be scared, but you do it anyway. And I just think I'm astonished by their integrity at such a young age. And I really think they're going to be the difference makers. I compare them quite often to a group of young women within the gymnastics community that we call the Army of Survivors. And they were the young women who basically exposed Larry Nassar, the serial pedophile doctor in women's gymnastics. And it was not the famous gymnasts that exposed him. They joined very late. In fact, Simone Biles did not come forward until after he was convicted. And I'm not throwing any shade. I understand that if you're a victim of sexual abuse, you have to do it in your own time. But this army of survivors, hundreds of them, Scarlett, who came forward and recounted the story, unknown gymnasts, not great gymnasts, not national team members, they're the ones who put him away. And I think it's the same in this case. There's going to be an army of young women, high school athletes across the country who are just too big to ignore at a certain point. It's just going to grow. It's going to be too big to ignore. And at that point, some famous athlete will join us, but we don't need her. Yeah. We don't need her.
There'll be I think even the Me Too movement, when it was initially, they were really addressing the terrible things that are happening. It was the young actresses. It was the ones that didn't have a big name. It was the females that were, you won't know their name. Their name isn't on the screen. They were the ones that came forward, and that propelled so much that finally some of the big names had to say, me too. But they were at the end. So it takes girls like this to come forward, start this conversation going, and suddenly it's going to happen. There's going to be a tipping point.
There is. And then it's going to be slowly and then all at once. And everyone's going to pretend they were always here and all that stuff. And we're not going to get mad about it, because what we really want is to win. I tell people all the time, we're not going to get mad at people if it took them a while. I mean, we might, if it's a famous person like Malcolm Gladwell, who admits that he lied and knew better, we might get a little mad. But I want to win. I want truth to out. And so we have to welcome people as we grow this movement and not scold them first. And I still see some scolding sometimes. And that's not my way. I want to welcome people. I know how hard it is. I know how much risk there is. And so we just need to grow, and we need to win. And no one wins the purity test. I was late, whoever. It's like, let's just grow the movement and keep our eyes on the prize.
Yeah, like with COVID, so that's exactly what will happen. That suddenly I was always on your side. Like, I always believe that, or they'll just never talk about it, pretend it didn't happen. Like none of this actually happened.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of that with this issue. What do you mean? I wasn't even aware. I had no idea men were winning Olympic gold medals.
I was
Really?
old.
Olympic gold medals.
Yeah.
In the last 20 years, well, World Athletics, which has set a standard, that's the national governing or the international governing body for track and field, who has set the rule that they will sex test. They found 60 instances in the last 20 years of males not necessarily winning gold medals, but competing and winning on the road to Olympic gold. So that's a lot. That's one sport at the highest level. And you know what? Girls not at the highest level, girls in high school deserve fairness too. Everybody deserves fairness, not just Olympians.
That's a statistic I used the last time I testified in Madison at the State House, because they were saying this never happens. I was like, as a matter of fact, I've submitted before you a list of the 60 where it's happened. And like, well, that's not, I'm like, even one is too many. One is too many.
Yeah.
This is what we have recorded, and I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there's.
And that's just track and field. So if you go to hecheated.org, which is my favorite site, she does a great job keeping track. There's almost 5,000 instances in the last few decades of boys or men stealing opportunities, team births, prizes from girls. And when you layer in teams, not individual sports, but teams with males on them, that doubles to 10,000 instances. So I don't know where they got this number, Scarlett, that this isn't happening, this never happens. They say it all the time. It is happening. It's happening all the time.
It's not reported so often. I get so many tips, but no, I can't put anything out on social media or talk about it unless I have confirmation.
Sure.
And then that's where they'll say,
this is a great resource.
Put me on the record. Don't put me on the record. So, but here, hecheated.org. So
yeah, it's a great resource. And if you go to, well, all the tabs are great, but they keep, I don't even know who does it. It's anonymous, but it's a labor of love. Think of it as the sort of non-woke Wikipedia resource for how many times this happens. And it happens all the time.
Yep. This website is dedicated to archiving the achievements of female athletes who are displaced by males in women's sporting events. And you can see right here the number of medals, competitions, female athletes, sports, and then it's all detailed. Look right through here. And this is actually what I used. And so if you're watching this and you're about to go testify to in your state house, they're bringing up a bill about fairness in women and girls sports. Go to this website, shewon.org, and you can submit this in your testimony and talk about it, because they're going to try and say the thing that never happens. And you can say, yes, it does. Here's the proof.
Yeah. And the numbers on, I don't know the discrepancy on He Cheated, which is a separate site, are even higher, and include, it's fully international. Maybe that's the difference. But the numbers are giant. And I think right now we really have, one of the lines that gets repeated is Charlie Baker, who runs the NCAA, has said in his, I think, congressional testimony that there are fewer than 10 trans-identified male athletes in the NCAA, which is one, we don't know that. And two, I think it's a lie. I think there are many athletes with disordered sex development, as which I described earlier. And he's like made that number up entirely. Like, yep. What? It's false. I mean, I can name 10 without even thinking about it. Literally.
And you know what hurts is because when parents like me go to testify and we're trying to advocate for legislation to protect girls' sports, they all the Democrats cite him.
That's right.
They cite him.
That's right. And it's a totally made up number. It's not true. And who cares if it's only 10? Would we say, well, there's only 10 athletes using performance enhancing drugs. Why don't we just let them?
Yeah. Yeah. Then I'm like, even if it was one, it's still worth doing. I've had to say that over and over. If it's one girl that's getting abused, if it's one girl
that's right,
is terrified to use the women's locker room.
That's right.
But it's so much worse than that. There's Wisconsin horror stories I can tell you, but before that, we'll talk about some of the good news, and that is another piece of good news is you were just at the Fox Nation Patriot Awards,
I
where
was.
2 young girls were honored. And so tell us about that.
Well, so this is cool. One was Alexa, who was at the Moms for Liberty on the panel. And the other was Reese, also from Oregon. And they were the 2 girls that at the high school state track championship chose to step down from the podium and not share the podium with a male athlete who won. So they were both honored at the Fox Patriot Awards for their courage, essentially. And so, yeah, it was really cool to be there to see them get the award. I was so proud of both of them. They're just so poised and they have so much integrity. And it was just really cool to see them get rewarded on a national stage for their courage, for doing something that I'm sure was very scary and very difficult in their own community.
Very scary. If you have teenage girls, you know that standing up it's just it's a very scary thing. You know, it's hard to be different when you're a teenager in high school and then to have the whole world see. But it's also now these girls are Teflon. These girls have proven that they have more courage of conviction and than most adults.
Yeah.
And they're special now. They're unique. They're going to change the world because now they have a superpower. The world has thrown everything at them and they are still standing. So now, and that's what I told them, like, you have a superpower now. That's the other end of this. That's why I am so glad I stood out. I'm sure you are so glad. All the hard times, it's all worth it because at the end you get this superpower where you don't care what people think anymore. And that's a gift.
It is a real gift. It took me a long time to get there. I started in a real hole as a gymnast where there was this forced obedience. And yeah, it took me a long time to get there. I certainly don't think I could have done what they have done at such a young age. I had to work my way there, and it's really hard. And I think you're right. They have great parents. They do have supportive friends. I feel proud that I was able to kind of scoop them up and welcome them into our XXXY athletics community. You know, we have over 200 athletes. They're part of that athlete community now, 200 athletes that we work with. So I think, and I hope they felt supported from the beginning, even if it felt really scary. But it's cool. I want to
play this clip of you at the event.
Oh God.
I am in Long Island, New York, about to go into the Fox Nation Patriot Awards and see our athletes, Alexa Anderson and Reese Eckert, win the Patriot Award.
So many girls who deserve this award for their courage. Girls like my friends Sophia and Maddie, who took a stand with me at that first track meet back in Oregon.
But they're going to win because they stood down and refused to take to the podium to stand up for women's sports. It's really going to be super neat to see them accept this award.
And to all the girls who are currently fighting for fairness, just know nothing will happen if you do nothing. We need to fight to protect the future of women's sports.
I am in.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. Amazing. I love it. Nothing
Yeah, it was neat.
if you do nothing. Mic drop. There you go. Nothing will happen if you do nothing. And I think it should be said, Jennifer, that I think that the work that you've done and the groundwork you've laid and the programs that you've provided have made it possible for them to stand up, like that there is a community, that they don't have to feel alone. And I can only hope that some of the work that we've done at Moms for Liberty has contributed to that as well, that we've tried to make this space as adults where they are safe and they can come out and be strong.
I think so. I mean, I think we have a different role to play as a brand. And if you see just one person in the stands with the t-shirt on, you can go, oh, those are my people. There are people here that agree with me. I feel safer. Obviously, Riley has led the charge here, but every day another female athlete stands up, whether she's a high school athlete or middle schoolers, remember the West Virginia shot putters, or a D1 athlete or a professional soccer player, and we are going to do it. But I have no illusions about how hard it is still going to be, because as many wins as we get, and yesterday, the International Olympic Committee said that they would retain the boundary of women's sports. We don't yet know how they're going to do that for the Winter Olympics, but it seems like they're going to introduce sex testing. That's a huge win. Most governing bodies say they follow the IOC, so that's a big win. And yet on the other side of that, you have Elizabeth Eddy speaking up and getting completely smeared by her own teammates. So we're in it right now, and it's going to be a slog, but we will get there because the truth will win.
Yes, and talking about Riley Gaines, she was just recently a keynote speaker at an event in Illinois. I was in Chicago, and she's there with her family. And for her to travel anywhere, she has to be surrounded, her and her family, by armed guards at all times.
Yeah.
That is the price that and it's a high price. Like you can look at her on social media and she looks so beautiful. And I love that now all of these millions of girls that follow her and look up to her are now watching her blossom into motherhood at a young age, sending the right cultural message that I had my career, I stood up, I was in sports, and now I'm taking time to be a mom and doing it young and getting married. And I love that she is becoming a different kind of role model for these girls. And I know she's going to serve it, do well. There is a price to be paid when you see the way that she has to travel. It's so sick and disgusting to me. I'm absolutely disgusted that a young woman with her baby has to be surrounded by armed security guards at all times just to travel. It's really gross.
Yeah, and my understanding is that she started doing that after the event at San Francisco State University a couple of years ago, where she was attacked. Essentially, she was physically attacked. She was hit in the face. She had to lock herself in a room. There were insane people demanding that she pay ransom to be let go, and the police did nothing. So, my understanding is since then she travels always with security, as she should. I mean, look,
Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously he had full-time security and it wasn't enough, which is horrible. We have terrible, terrible threats into our business. Look, we all get silly ones that we know not to take seriously. But when they describe the way that they're going to kill you, that becomes an issue for law enforcement. When they go beyond, I wish you would die. I get that all the time. And I'm no one compared to, Riley and all the people that get these terrible threats. But it's crazy out there. If they feel like you're making a difference, it really threatens their worldview. And they become a little kind of deranged with rage. And I actually think it's going to get worse for many of us because we're starting to win and make traction. And so there's just this fevered, frantic rage being emitted by those who've controlled the narrative for so long, and truth is coming out. So I think it's sort of the last gasps of a dying movement.
And the truth is coming out, isn't it? When the first transgender representative is now facing 45 years in prison for pornography, possession of pornography. I'm going to look that up. And a lot of the memes are, look at my shocked face. But this is exactly the type of male pretending to be a female that wants to enter my daughter's spaces.
Well, let's talk about Tish Hyman. Are you following that story?
Yes, I am. I did want to talk about that. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. In LA, Tish is a Black lesbian rapper, musician, Grammy nominated, so very accomplished musician. A few videos from her went viral in the last 2 weeks. She lives in Los Angeles. She was in Gold's Gym, or whoever owns Gold's now. I can't remember the name of it. And there was a male in the locker room, and she made a fuss and she said, "You need to leave. You're a man." And unfortunately, Tish didn't know it at the time. She certainly does now. The law was on his side. The law says gender ID is what trumps actual sex. And if he says he's a woman, and by the way, not that it matters if he actually looked like one or not, but this was like clearly a dude with a little lip gloss on. He wasn't even trying. Nope. There's Tish there in the center in San Francisco last night. But as it turns out, Scarlett, so she was confronted with different men in the locker room 6 times over the course of a few weeks. And she was just like, I'm not going to stand for this. And she's fearless. So she shouted and she screamed and she brought the attention of the gym. But she's the one who lost her membership to the gym. And as it turns out, the male in the locker room, whose real name is Grant Freeman, is a convicted criminal for drug trafficking, but also domestic violence. So he has an ex-wife. He beat her. He slammed her face into a toilet seat and broke her jaw. Compound fracture. She had facial reconstructive surgery to correct it. He's taken her name now, Alexis. Like, this is a deranged man, and yet the law sides with him.
Wow. I'm pulling up the video. I actually did not hear this. So this looks like, I can't believe that, but I'm pulling up the video of this from Ali London of this guy. I was with Sonia Shaw in Chicago, and she was telling me the story because I'm so focused, like so much work. And she's like, have you heard about Tish? I was like, no, I hadn't. So she started to show me the videos and what was happening. And I'm like, wow. And I loved the way that she just went. I mean, she's just like, there's a dude.
Yeah,
I think,
man.
Yeah, she hasn't, she's an example of someone who has not gotten the message yet. Now she's got the message, but she was unaware that this was really happening. She probably thought it wasn't really happening. Those right wingers and all their stories, couldn't ever happen to me.
Well, and then it happened to her 6 times in the course of 2 or 3 weeks. And I think she really feels called at this point to stand up for women's safety and women's rights. I mean, she's a powerhouse because she will scream and scream and scream to make it known that these are men in the locker room. She is not a shrinking violet. She is not going to be quiet and just take it or just pick up her things and leave. She is a fierce defender of women's rights at this point. And she has been thrown out of the frying pan right into the fire, and she is running, not walking. I was going to say a bad word. I'm probably not allowed to say that on your show. She's just a tough cookie. I'll leave it at that.
I'm going to play the video of this guy. I haven't seen it yet, so hopefully it's not too bad, but I'm going to put this on. This is the guy that, you were right. All he did was put some lipstick on and kind of walk in an effeminate way and just walk right into the women's bathroom. And like he owned the place, and she's like, wait, stop. And he's just walking right in.
Hi, it's almost dinner time. Got this one going out to just tell my rainbow family, the LGBT plus community, that stay strong. Feel your feelings, certainly feel your feelings, but there's no reason to be fearful of the administration and what they're doing. We must stand strong. We must communicate. We must corroborate. We must cooperate. Certainly, us. Ideally, we want to work with them. But the bottom line is they're coming after us because they're fearful of us. They don't understand it because they won't look inside of themselves, okay? So you've looked inside yourself. That's why you do what you do. Beings of love and light. Beings of love and light.
He is fashioning himself as a victim, Scarlett. He is a wife beater. He fractured his wife's jaw. Like, he is the worst kind of man. And you know what? We should not be forced to distinguish between, no men, benign or violent. I'm not suggesting all men who even think they're women are violent. They're not women. I don't care what they think, but we are not going to have to distinguish between the bad ones and the good ones. They have to all stay out. He is a man. He's a violent man. Go in the men's room.
Yes. We can't wait and see, like, maybe it was this one that's one that beats women or whatnot. And the fact that he's a love and light and he's part of the community, he looks like a man, he talks like a man. Like, this is all pretend for him. This is a disturbed person that is gaming this system. That's basically right. Using the whole LGBTQIA plus. I think that's what a psychopath would do. Like, understand.
Yeah, I believe he's a straight man with a fetish that he gets turned on thinking of himself as a woman. That is what this is, and he is invading women's spaces. And there have been other interviews he's done, Scarlett, that with TMZ, he's like smirking about this woman, and he's playing the victim card, and he's talking about how all the women in the locker room were comforting him, which I don't believe for a second. I think they're all grateful Tish has the chutzpah to stand up and scream as needed. But we can't let Tish do it alone. And, we have to kind of stand with her. She was great. Last night she was in San Francisco. You showed a photo, and she paid for a ticket to go hear Scott Wiener speak, who is now campaigning now that Nancy Pelosi is saying she isn't going to run again at 109 years old, he's going to campaign for her seat. He is a state senator in California, and she went in and very graciously asked him a question about protecting women's rights to safety and privacy, and he basically answered with trans women are women. So we know where he stands. But I want Tish to feel supported. She's on fire. She's going to make a difference. We should let her know that we stand with her and we support her courage and bravery.
So in my area of Wisconsin, in Racine, I broke a story. It was just a month ago. A grown man in his 50s was walking into the women and girls locker room at Racine Unified School District Aquatic Center. And this aquatic center is connected to the Case High School, the local high school. And it offers classes to residents and that they can come in and use it for swimming. And so this 6-year-old guy was walking into the women and girls space, and this was reported to me by a whistleblower. And this whistleblower had repeatedly tried to say something to get this guy out. He was worried about that he could be a potential predator, obviously, and thought this wasn't right. Talked to school staff, and they said, we don't want him in there either, but we have to let him in there. We were told by the school board and the superintendent, we have to let him in there because of school board policy, the transgender inclusive school board policy. So they let this guy, so now in a high school, they're using school board policy to let 6-year-old men that have lipstick on wearing a swimsuit go in. But it gets
okay, keep telling me.
Turns out that the chapter chair of Moms for Liberty does some digging and CCAPs this guy, finds out that he's got a criminal record, that he is a sex offender, that he's been arrested in Illinois and in Wisconsin for pleasuring himself in a car after going into the locker rooms where there's mothers and their children. And he does it with the door open so everyone can see. The Racine DA said, if you see this man around children, call the police immediately because it is in violation of his parole.
Right. But he figured out a get out of jail free card by just saying he's a woman.
Yep.
It's like insane. Everybody knows that predators go where the victims are. I said earlier, I grew up in a sport that was rife with sexual abuse, and there were coaches. It was known, like they went where the kids were. That's what they did. That's where these pedophiles went. This is a new disguise. You just say you're a woman, you put on a little lipstick, and all of a sudden you're a victim class and you can go wherever you want. I mean, what happened to the Me Too ladies? Just 7 years ago, if a man looked at you funny at the water cooler, he could have a career ruined, which was not right either. Let me be clear. But I think at the beginning of Me Too, which was about actual sexual violence, that was good. It jumped the shark at certain points, but you had men being just dragged and lost their reputations and careers for a funny look at a woman. And now you have actual predators throwing on, a women's bathing suit and going into the women's locker room, and they are protected somehow. And the law protects them. That is the thing. I can't speak to the law where you live, but in California, where I used to live, the law says if you say you're a woman, you are. And so that guy, Grant Freeman, gets to actually go in the locker room, and Tish loses her membership to the gym. That's the way the law is written right now.
And the problem is that there are elected leaders and people that are supposed to protect us that are too afraid of the LGBTQIA plus activists to do anything until it's so bad that they have to. So the things that would, the signals, the things that would normally say, oh, we better look into this, they will sweep under the rug until something terrible has to happen. So someone actually has to get hurt for them to finally investigate, for them to finally do their job, where normally in any other situation, there would be tips and they'd be acted upon immediately. But now if they say, oh, I think I'm a woman, well, then everyone's like, oh, I don't want to touch that. I don't want to get sued. I don't want to get canceled. I don't want activists to surround my workplace and chant. I don't want them to find out where I live. I don't want the nasty emails. So I'm just going to, la, 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 la. I pretend it's not.
I mean, terrible things have happened. There are men who say they're women who are in women's prisons across California, and there have been rapes. There have been women who've been raped and impregnated. Terrible, terrible things are happening. I don't know what it's going to take for this fever to break, but I will tell you, it will take more Tishes and more Alexas and more, we just have to build it. I don't know how else to do it. You build a movement one person at a time. And Tish is a really valuable and courageous addition. And it's interesting. She posted video of last night's event with Scott Wiener. They're completely taken aback because she declares herself. She uses their language. She's like, I'm a Black lesbian. I'm not anti-gay. I'm not homophobic. And they're all just like, what do we do now? Like, we can't tell her to stop talking. And yet, at the end of the day, he had no real answer for her, other than trans women are women, which they're not, they're men. So Tish is a fighter. She's going to keep going, and she's going to bring more people along, because people that follow her and like her music, who don't know who you and I are, they're going to lean in and they're going to take note. She has a whole different cohort of people that follow her as a musician, and she speaks so authentically. And so that's what we need to do. We just need to bring one at a time people that resonate with different audiences, that speak truth, that use their own voice. And I like I said, we will win, but I have no illusions about the path ahead of us and how difficult it is going to be.
And Tish gives permission for people to say something. My neighbor in the suburb who thinks what I'm saying, what you're saying, agrees with it, but thinks, oh, I don't want to be called a racist. I don't want to be called homophobic. Well, when Tish says something, now she can say, see, I'm not a racist or homo. I'm not.
I stand with Tish.
I stand with Tish. And that's what's important. Gays Against Groomers. I work with Jamie Mitchell all the time. She lives in Wisconsin, and Sasha. Oh. Their group is amazing because they're so helpful. They will support us at school board meetings. They always come with us to testify, and they are so much more bold than, I think I'm bold until I'm with Gays Against Groomers. They are like fierce because they're like, you can't call me a bigot.
They don't they don't want to be lumped in with the T. I think there's a lot of L's and G's and B's who are now going, how did I get lumped in with these people who are violating women's rights? Like, I just want to be left alone and have my life. I just want to be standing over here and just be like a normal person, normal member of society. And you guys are messing that up for me because you're invading women's spaces and harassing women and stealing their trophies, and you're not living in reality. So, I think there's Gays Against Groomers, and there's LGBT Alliance, and there's all these groups that are burgeoning. So I think there's a divide in the letters community that is going to need to be confronted at some point soon.
And they have children that they don't want to be indoctrinated. They're like, I will have these conversations with my kids. I don't need your help. You don't need to represent me. You're not doing it well. So they can say that now. Like, and I appreciate Jamie Reed is amazing. She came
amazing
to testify, and she has children, and she's got her story, and she's like, I will, my wife and I, we will take care of our kids. We don't need your help. We don't need you to come in and do this in our name. And so it's appreciated. And I think now I'm going to really be looking into Tish, like what she's saying. It's that same kind of message. And I know we've been talking for over an hour. Feels like I haven't even got to everything. We'll definitely have to do this again. But
Thanks for having me.
oh, I'm so happy that you've been on, and I always, your speech is always the best because it's just like, it's straight, no chaser. It's just like, this is what we have to do, and we need that. So I'll ask you to close. How can moms, parents, and everyday Americans help protect women's sports and keep public schools accountable for sex-based protections?
I think what you do in your own community every day matters. And if you don't want to go speak at a school board meeting, you don't feel quite ready for that, at the risk of sounding like I'm trying to sell like wear the t-shirt that just says XXXY, because you will find another mom that agrees with you, and you will then be a team, and together you might feel comfortable standing up to the coach or the league or the school board. Just in the quietest of ways, have the conversation with your neighbor, have the conversation with the other moms on your daughter's team. It's bit by bit. I really believe that. That's what's going to make the difference. We need to change the cultural conversation, and that happens in one-on-one conversations. Don't be afraid to do that. I like the whole idea of that. When I say wear the t-shirt, it's like it forces me to be fearless. Because some days, Scarlett, I don't want to to make your views known all the time, because they don't get to tell us to be quiet. We're the rational ones. Just remember that. Don't hide your views. Talk with your neighbor, talk with the other moms. If you want to speak at the school board meeting, do it there. But all that other stuff is just as meaningful. I think those one-on-one conversations, that's what I encourage people to do.
Yes, and you can win over. I mean, when I started talking about this in 2022, there were very few elected representatives that were willing to touch it, because they knew that all of the rage trans Tifa mob would come after them, and they just didn't want to deal with it. But when we started to come up and show up, and we would come to the Capitol, and we would come to their events, and we would show support, and we would give them the knowledge and talk to them, have conversations, give them the materials, and they would see what's happening. They got fired up, and now they're willing to do the hard thing and bring that legislation up, even if it won't get passed. Just,
it doesn't matter. Chip away.
Chip away. Yes. Have those like line up and just speak for 3 minutes. To your state legislators. They listen if you show up. The other side shows up in droves. We have to show up, and we have to call. We have to call all the members. You can't just call the ones that agree with you. Call all of them. Tell them how you feel. They may not eat the facts.
The other people on the other side think they get to say whatever they want, whenever they want, all the time. And we're supposed to just be shrinking violence and shrink it to the background. I told a story, I think, at Moms. I tell it all the time about a mom. You know, I had on one of our shirts, or my daughter had one of our shirts on at soccer practice, and the mom asked me to tell her not to wear it, and because it was harmful and offensive. And meanwhile, she can show up in any shirt she wants, and I'm not going to complain because she gets to do that. And so I just stood my ground calmly. I explained my position, and she ended the conversation with, "Well, I trust you'll." We agree to disagree, but at least just don't have your daughter wear the shirt anymore. And I said, I'm not going to do that. And so just declaring that you're there and you're not backing down, and you can be nice and you can be calm and you can be fact-based, but don't make them feel like you can't speak up and say what you believe. That's the biggest thing, Scarlett, because I think so many of us for so long have done that. We've shrunk, we've gotten quiet, we've waited for it to pass. Well, not me and not you, but a lot of people, not just on this issue, but COVID and all sorts of things. And just don't be quiet.
Here I am. This is the shirt I'm wearing when I was in Madison.
Awesome. That's ours.
And I wore every time I go testify, I wear the shirts, and I had, like, in each one I would take a picture, and me and a lot of our Moms for Liberty members that were there, we're wearing the t-shirt, and we're surrounded. I mean, there's maybe 500 of activists, and they're wearing all their rainbow stuff, and
Right.
I didn't get bothered because I wore it with confidence everywhere, and you just have no, if you have that kind of confidence, like they didn't come up to me, they didn't say anything, maybe they snickered or whatever, but everywhere I went, I wanted them to see like team women, XXXY, like have that message there. And most of the time, the only comments I got were like, where do I get that? Where do I get that? I love it.
Yeah. You can't allow yourself to be steamrolled and silenced. Our view is not only valid, it's correct. And we've been made to feel that we can't say it for fear of being called a bigot or whatever. And just don't do it anymore. We have every right to say the things that we believe, which are the truth. I think that's the biggest thing, is just don't shrink into the background. Don't do it.
I am going to be attending many varsity basketball games, and I told my husband I'm wearing a XXY every single time, and walking around everywhere just wearing it. And my daughter's used to it by now, so she's okay. To be honest, her friends, she just was telling me yesterday, her friends are like, "Your mom is so based." Like,
I love it. That's so cool. That's the ultimate compliment.
Yeah, like we're the rebels. I mean, I'm kind of proud of it. And I think when you're proud of it, your kids can be proud of it. Like we are sticking it to the man. Like literally
punk rockers. We're literally the punk
rockers.
To
the man who's pretending to be a woman. Like I will not back down on this. There are many issues where I'm like, oh, be nice. But on this, it's like, I like, wouldn't you use the pronouns or be nice? I was like, no, I'm not going to be nice. I'm not going to intentionally be mean, but I am not going to lie. And I'm not.
But it's not nice. It isn't nice either. It's not nice to girls. Why don't we care about girls like that? At the end of the day, that's the thing, is they say be nice. Why? You're not being nice to girls. You're stealing their opportunities, and you're telling them to be quiet and not express their point of view. I'm here to shine a light on the girls. It isn't nice to tell a lie. It isn't nice to tell girls to be quiet when they stand up in their own defense. So just, you are being nice when you defend girls. That's nice.
It isn't nice to let 60-year-old sex offenders into the high school bathrooms with moms and their young boys and girls, because when you have a young kid, you bring them in with you, you change there, and there is this pervert that gets off watching it. So it's not nice to let that happen. And I'm not going to let it happen on my watch. So there.
Not nice. I'm with you, girl.
All right. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on. This was the best conversation. I'm so happy to know you, and I'm so happy for all that you do. And I'm so grateful you're going to come to Wisconsin to our legislative day. And so you can see this all in action.
I love it. Yep.
We've got a great group in Wisconsin, and we are trying to we have legislation in waiting. It's in Senate. It was passed by our assembly, and we need to give senators courage to bring that bill to the floor and vote on it. So that's what
I stand with you.
All right. Thanks, Jennifer. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
What a great conversation with Jennifer Say. She is showing America that courage is the new cool, and that protecting sports is what's necessary for us to win. And we will win this ideological battle. We're going to win this culture war because truth will out, and biological reality cannot be denied forever. Protecting women and girls' sports is not hateful. It's honorable. It's the honorable thing to do. Allowing men into sex-separated female spaces is not nice. It's not nice at all. It's not nice to invade women's private spaces and expose them to potential predators. It's not nice to let 60-year-old sex offenders into your bathrooms just because his feelings might get hurt. I don't care about his feelings. I don't care about the feelings of any man who puts on lipstick and pretends to be a woman and wants to invade my space for the space of my daughters. I don't care. It is my job to exclude predators and sex offenders away from my children. And if I don't do that, I'm not doing my job. And that certainly would not be nice to my kids.
Riley Gaines and Sia Leahy are in hot water over their transphobic comments. And I just gotta say, who cares if biological males play in women's sports? Just be inclusive.
Could not agree more. This is just a bunch of fear-mongering from right-wing bigots.
I'm just gonna say it, she's a bigot.
She's been a massive distraction from her team with her hate-filled rhetoric. Sia is not inclusive. And males invading women's sports isn't even a problem, as far as I'm concerned.
These female athletes just need to work harder.
And not blame others for their lack of success.
Transphobe.
As the captain, Sia is very much responsible for these boycotts, which have cost her team a playoff bid.
Guess we'll see how Sia handles all that pressure tonight.
Real girls do rock, don't they? I love that ad. I love it. Great job. Well, it is nearly Christmas. For me, November 1st starts Christmas and Hallmark movies. So what a great gift idea. XXXY gear for your wife, your daughter, your mom, niece, someone that you care about in your life. I know, especially after this amazing interview, I plan to make some purchases, and you better hurry because special edition gear sells out really, really quick. So make sure you head over to XXXY and buy something that is comfortable and amazing and supports something really important. So as a special treat, I'm adding this behind the scenes interview that I had with the three young ladies that we were talking about, Jennifer Say and I, Maddie Wilkin, Alexa Anderson, and Sophia Carpenter. This interview was in Orlando at the Joyful Warrior Summit. And after they were on stage, I was able to talk to them behind the scenes. This was a video I recorded with my phone. We have a better video that I'm currently editing, but I just wanted to put this out there right away. The sound is okay. I worked on it a little bit. The sound might be a little hard to hear. You might want to turn it up just a little bit, but I just wanted you to hear this really cool behind the scenes interview, which we will be putting out next week. It'll be on YouTube. It's far better quality. So just take this for what it is. It's really good. It's heartfelt. Could not help but cry during this discussion with these young ladies. So here you go. And I am going to be interviewing all three of these young ladies today. I'm so excited about that. So no further ado, let's watch.
I am Alexa Anderson. I am a track and field athlete originally from Oregon. I currently go to the University of South Alabama, and I am here as an advocate for women's sports after competing against a transgender athlete due to the lack of protections in Oregon.
Hi, I'm Maddie Wilkin. I'm from Colorado. I'm a junior at Thompson Valley High School, and I'm here supporting women's sports after I wrestled a 18-year-old biological male.
Hi, I'm Sophia Carpenter. I'm from Oregon. I'm a senior in high school,
and I competed against a male athlete and at the state meet. And now I'm involved in a lawsuit against the Oregon State Activities Association and our Department of Education, thanks to America First Policy Institute.
Can I add a bit more about them?
Yes, please do.
They're being humble. That's the word. Sorry. Alexa, at a state competition, when she was being told that she had to share the podium with a boy, refused to take the podium, and she turned her back in protest, silent protest, peaceful protest, and was ushered away from the podium and told she could not protest in that way. And she has yet to be sent her trophy. So that's punishment. She's from Oregon. I'm going to do two Oregon. I'm not skipping you, Maddie. Sophia is also from Oregon. This is one of the bluest states in the country, and these are the states where boys are still stealing opportunities from young girls, as young as middle school, but high school as well as college. And these two young women, Alexa and Sophia, are both pushing back. They joined a lawsuit against the Department of Ed in Oregon to ensure that Title IX rights are protected, because boys who think they're girls are not protected by Title IX. Maddie is from my home state of Colorado. At 14 years old, she had to wrestle a boy who was 4 years older than her, and about a year ago, she spoke at a school board meeting in Colorado, and that was incredibly powerful and brave for a teenager to do something that the vast majority of adults are still not willing to do. So we're so proud at XXXY Athletics to work with all three of these young women and men and more. We have over 200 athletes in our sort of roster of ambassadors, and we just want to give them community and a platform and make them feel recognized and seen and not alone.
We're recording.
Hi, I'm Scarlett Johnson with Moms for Liberty, and I'm here with Jennifer Say, the founder and CEO of XXXY, and three gorgeous young ladies. And I want you to introduce yourselves and tell us your story and why you're here.
I am Alexa Anderson. I am a track and field athlete originally from Oregon. I currently go to the University of South Alabama, and I am here as an advocate for women's sports after competing against a transgender athlete due to the lack of protections in Oregon.
Hi, I'm Maddie Wilkin. I'm from Colorado. I'm a junior at Thompson Valley High School, and I'm here supporting women's sports after I wrestled a 18-year-old biological male.
Hi, I'm Sophia Carpenter. I'm from Oregon. I'm a senior in high school, and I competed against a male athlete and at the state meet. And now I'm involved in a lawsuit against the Oregon State Activities Association and our Department of Education, thanks to America First Policy Institute.
Can I add a bit more about them?
Yes, please do.
They're being humble. That's the word. Sorry. Alexa, at a state competition, when she was being told that she had to share the podium with a boy, refused to take the podium, and she turned her back in protest, silent protest, peaceful protest, and was ushered away from the podium and told she could not protest in that way. And she has yet to be sent her trophy. So that's punishment. She's from Oregon. I'm going to do two Oregon. I'm not skipping you, Maddie. Sophia is also from Oregon. This is one of the bluest states in the country, and these are the states where boys are still stealing opportunities from young girls, as young as middle school, but high school as well as college. And these two young women, Alexa and Sophia, are both pushing back. They joined a lawsuit against the Department of Ed in Oregon to ensure that Title IX rights are protected, because boys who think they're girls are not protected by Title IX. Maddie is from my home state of Colorado. At 14 years old, she had to wrestle a boy who was 4 years older than her, and about a year ago, she spoke at a school board meeting in Colorado, and that was incredibly powerful and brave for a teenager to do something that the vast majority of adults are still not willing to do. So we're so proud at XXXY Athletics to work with all three of these young women and men and more. We have over 200 athletes in our sort of roster of ambassadors, and we just want to give them community and a platform and make them feel recognized and seen and not alone.
I only wish that there are more adults that are as brave as you girls. What you're doing is so brave. I know many adults that won't even go to a school board meeting, and that I've heard all of you on social media. I will probably repost it, and I'm going to do it some more. I just want you to know I'm a mom of 5. I have 4 girls, and I only hope that my girls have the courage and the tenacity and the spirit that you all have. And you're from the bottom of my heart, sincerely, I'm so thankful for you. You're so amazing. So just keep up, and you have great parents, that support you. So just like this just touches me. Like I'm gonna like start to cry.
And when you stand up, you inspire other girls to do the same.
You do, because a lot of girls will. Listen, we're all women, we know. Like we want people to be happy. We aim to please. That's who we are. But in this situation, we can't do it. You have to stand up for yourselves. You have to stand up for all women. I'm so glad that you have. So what has been your biggest victory and kind of your biggest challenge?
Yeah, I think our biggest victory right now, especially in Oregon, is the 2 lawsuits that we have actively going. We have a Title IX lawsuit, obviously, against the Title IX violations in Oregon, but we also have a First Amendment lawsuit involving me and Reese, the other girl that stepped down, because we were not allowed to use our First Amendment rights of freedom of speech and freedom of protest. So I think that is a huge win that we have those in place and that we have momentum in that, so I'm really excited to see where that goes. But the hardest part has definitely been all the negativity, just because, at least where I come from, this is not an issue of hate, this is not an issue of transphobia, homophobia, anything like that. It's just about biological reality and feminism and fighting for women to have fair and equal rights. And the hardest part has been the people who don't understand that, and they're so quick to attack us, come at us on social media, be like, these girls are horrible people, they're bullies, like all these negative things, when I don't wish negativity towards anyone, any group, any individual person. This is about bringing attention to the people in charge that we're not okay with their lack of protections, and we will fight for that. So,
real quick, I want to say, these are bots for the most part, okay? A lot of the people coming after you, or they're hiding in their parents' basement and they put their name out there, they don't have an ounce of courage. And so, just, pay no mind, because I'm a person that works in social media. When you can't even put your name out there, or your face out there, and you're on your keyboard, keyboard warriors,
I think what's hard, if I could add to that, as someone who's been doing this, standing up and saying sort of true but controversial things for a long time, is when people that you thought were your friends or your teammates or part of your community or people, your colleagues, and I know you guys have faced some of that, and that's what's so hard, because you're right, who cares about a nameless, faceless, person on X? That's probably a bot, but I know that a lot of you face it from your own teammates, schoolmates, and your own community, and they are real people, but they're wrong. And you guys stand tall with grace, and I think one of the things I hope to be able to do with the brand is just connect you all, because you guys don't live in the same stable, 2 of you do, and create that sense of community, because there's a lot of people that agree with you. I mean, 80% of Americans apparently agree with you, they just are too afraid to say it. So, we know it's hard, I mean, we go through it too, but you guys demonstrate enormous moral courage and standing strong, so we thank you.
Same question to you. What is the biggest challenge and your biggest victory?
Well, I have had lots of victories. It's hard to name just one. But right now, from the standpoint, this is my victory. Being here right now, being able to share my story, being here, meeting all these people, it's truly, like, I just can't believe it. It is truly just amazing. This is my victory right here. And as a challenge, in myself, I got diagnosed with a disorder. And so not only having to go through just fighting for women's rights, I've also been made fun of for my neurological disorder, and it's been hard to stand up and just act like nothing's even happening, and just turn a blind eye to all the people I've known. That has been my biggest struggle. But with God, with my family, with all the prayers that I've ever received, I've been able to overcome it. And it's just really, this is my victory.
For me, I think it's cool, all the connections that I've made now. Being able to meet Riley Gaines, that was the coolest thing ever. Like, I read her book and I was excited, and then I got to see her speak at Portland State. That was even more exciting. And then meeting people like Jennifer Say. My mom came into the hotel room this morning and she was like, oh yeah, we're gonna go meet Jennifer casually. Like, okay. I would echo what Alexa was saying about how it's hard when you receive that negative feedback for what you're doing. I think not even online as much, but just the silence, kind of that Jennifer was talking about. At the state track meet, on the day when Alexa stepped off the podium, and it was a very hard day. You could feel it in the atmosphere, just the tension. And even people who do agree that it's wrong, saying, I don't want to wear your t-shirt. I was offering people like, hey, I didn't make it on the podium. Do you want to wear my shirt at least? And the other girls were turning me down and saying, no, I don't want to take a stand. And it was just disappointing for me to see that, you know, my peers. And so it just makes me even more grateful for these people here.
So you found your people. I'm old enough to remember when being a feminist meant that you stood up and you fought for women and girls and not for men pretending to be women and girls. So thank you for standing up. And in my personal experience, especially with mass COVID, when I first stood up, just like when Jennifer first stood up, we were pretty alone. And 2 years later, everyone was pretending like they were always with us. You know, so you're right. You're right. And eventually, everyone is going to have to publicly acknowledge that and say that. But you were the ones that stood up. Now you are forever changed. You're heroes. You're heroes now. And now you're going to conquer the world and you're going to do such great things. And I'm so proud of you. And I know that Moms for Liberty, we're so proud of you. You're the reason why I do what I do.
I want to just emphasize what she said. You guys are going to be the difference makers here. As I said during our interview, adults write me every day and they say, I love your brand, I love the shirts, I love all of it, I love what you stand for, I'm too afraid. And I tell them stories about girls like you all. Because you guys have more courage in your little tiny finger than the vast majority of adults. So I think you're going to be the difference makers. It's going to be a long, hard fight. It's not, I don't even think it's going to be as fast as the mask thing. As I mentioned during our interview, I first spoke out about coaching abuse in gymnastics in 2008, and my coach was just banned 17 years later. 17 years. So I'm not saying this is going to take 17 years, but I'm saying we need to be prepared to continue the fight, and you guys are leaders in this movement now. So welcome. Thank you. Here you go, Maddie.
I just wanted to add that meeting people who support the same things I do, it is an automatic bond. I mean, I just met these people and I feel like I've known them forever because it is just an automatic bond to talk about it and to have someone that feels the same way, because that really does mean everything. Because this is a fight and we are not stopping.
Thank you, Jennifer, for doing this, for bringing them together. And for these girls, so they have community, they have people to talk to. Who knows? You guys are the future Moms for Liberty. One day I'm going to be in my walker and you guys are going to be doing all of this, and I'll say, I knew you when, because you're the ones that are going to be fighting, and you're the ones that are going to be doing all of this. So it gives me hope, and I know it gives so many out there hope. And good news is there are 2 Supreme Court cases that are being decided. And the way the decision, that could be a real game changer. But even if we're victorious there, as we know, there's going to be those that are to drag their feet and they're going to fight. So the woke never stop. Evil doesn't stop. It doesn't take a day off. So good can't either. So thank you, girls. And since Riley's a friend of mine too, I think we should do like a shout out to her, and then we could post this, and I know she'll respond. She's taking care of her adorable little baby girl. So, what do you guys want to say to Riley?
Let's just all tell her thank you, that we love her. On her, you can just say thank you, Riley.
Thank you. We love you. Sure.
1, 2, 3.
Thank you, Riley.
And hi, Margot.
Oh, yes. Hi, Margot. And I love that name. I love that name, Margot. All right, girls. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's amazing. I'm going to talk to you a little bit. Okay. Give me a hug. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to look at you cry.
Thank you.
And if one thing, you girls need to be testifying before Congress. Have you done this yet? Oh, no. Because they need to. Let's do it. The U.S. If they say, I listen to that. They say, oh, it's just a few. No, it's just a few. No, well, they say that Charlie Baker said there's less than 10 in the NCAA. First of all, it isn't true. And second of all, club sports, high school sports. Yeah. I mean, it's 60 and 100.
So that was the interview. We go back and we talk again because I started talking to the parents and their legal representation with America First Legal, and we had some more, but that's a teaser. And then we will have this up on YouTube in a better format. You'll be able to hear it. It'll be more clear, but that's just a teaser. If you want to hear the girls, and I'm going to share the screen, in the panel from the Moms for Liberty Joyful Warriors Summit, check this out right here. Hold on, there we go. So you can just go to the Moms for Liberty YouTube channel, and I'll give you that. It's real easy. At Moms4Liberty, and you can watch the full panel there. It is amazing. These girls are amazing, and I will be talking to them more. And if you would like to learn more about Jennifer Say, also on the Moms for Liberty YouTube channel is Jennifer Say with CEO and co-founder of Moms for Liberty, Tina Deskovich, in her podcast and episode, The Fire of Liberty Show, where Tina has a really in-depth conversation with Jennifer that dives into Jennifer's background. She tells her full story, her story as a gymnast, what happened to her, what she's overcome. Then she also, like she said, she had a very high position with the Levi's Corporation and what she sacrificed for truth during COVID. So if you want to hear the full story, go to the Moms for Liberty YouTube channel at Moms for Liberty, the Fire of Liberty Show podcast with Tina Deskovich. Click on this. It's a great story. It's probably the most in-depth interview that I've listened to with my hero, Jennifer Say. So thanks everyone for tuning in. I think that's a wrap for now. I've got a bunch more interviews to do with some amazing people, and I look forward to talking to you again real soon. Again, thanks for tuning in, and just keep an eye out on social media. We're trying to air consistently on Thursdays, but actually there's so much material that I am live streaming these podcasts at all different date times during the day. I'm trying to stick to the nighttime format, but we are going to be a little bit irregular for a little while as we find our footing. And we'll also be doing some spaces, some X spaces, lots of cool things. We're going to try a whole bunch of different strategies to talk to you, talk to our members, talk to a broader audience. So it's very exciting stuff. All right, everyone. Have a great day. God bless. Bye.